Well, folks, I'm in the middle of an intersection in Green Valley, Missouri. Just thought I would chime in since this could be an interesting, choppy drive. This is already my second cycle of this light because it's the week of Thanksgiving and it's going to be nuts. There was a photo shared from Los Angeles of the I-10 from last night, Tuesday night. And they said, we show this photo every year. And it was basically a parking lot of lights. White lights on southbound and red lights on northbound, not moving. And that is the joy of traffic in Southern California. And I thought, is that what we're in for in some version around here? I'm not sure. Could be interesting. There's a record number of people traveling, I'm told, for this holiday. Gas prices are stable enough in this part of the country anyways. Alright, here's the question. Will this light stay yellow long enough for me to sneak through? Better than we thought. Okay. We are home free, ladies and gentlemen. Good news. If I can just get this old bird to get up to speed. Had a pretty good day at work, all things considered. Gave us all a Thanksgiving lunch, which was tasty. Nice smoked meat, ham and turkey, which I don't usually get. Actually, I do usually get both, but I'm not sure I'll have both this year. But I got to have all the fixings, pretty much, except for dinner roll, which I didn't really need anyway. And I wisely turned down the bun for the meat because I wasn't going to need that. Running low on gas, but not crazy low, although according to this, I burned 6 miles of range just leaving the parking lot of my company. And I probably traveled a half a mile. That is probably accurate for this car, honestly, because it is so inefficient to drive this car in a city. Running around, running errands. It is not a good car for that. Now, it's a good car if you need to move 6 people along with you, 7 people along with you, as a matter of fact. It's great for that. If you're just moving yourself, it is not an efficient car for running around town. Driving on the highway, it's not great, but it'll do. I'll take 16.5 miles per gallon. I can live with that. Because you are moving cargo, people. You're riding in comfort, and you're riding up high. Read a great study about, actually it's not a great study. I question everything about this study, but it's an interesting, here we go. Oh, they're in the shoulder. Help us all. Help us all. Is that my coworker next to me? I don't think it is, no. Oh, help us all, help us all. This is not good. I don't have an alternative route. I do not have an alternative route for this road. And as it happens to be, I've now burned 9 miles, having traveled 4 minutes. We're not going to let it get us down. I used to want a cigarette when I'd see traffic like this. But shoot, I'm going 20 miles an hour. This can't be that bad. 20 miles an hour, folks. This is okay, 10 miles an hour. The people next to us are going faster. We're gonna get through this. It's gonna be good. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this. Anyways, I read a study about, the study tried to claim that pedestrian fatalities are markedly increased on vehicles that have flat front ends. And the argument is that vehicles should be manufactured with sloped hoods. Flat hoods kill more people than sloped hoods. Why is this? Also, height, very important. 30 inches or below, safer than 40 inches or higher off the ground. This is such a problematic study to me on so many levels. And what they're saying is, okay, stop making the Toyota Tacoma, stop making the GMC pickup truck, whatever they call that, the F-150. I mean, it's an attack on trucks, it's an attack on SUVs. That's what it is. And it's so absurd. How are you going to redesign a truck to have a hood that is 30 inches off the ground and sloped? You're going to have something like, I don't know, a Chevrolet Colorado, maybe a Ford Ranger, maybe not. I don't even think those would meet the standards that study proponents suggest. They also go as far as to say that there is no functional benefit to a flat hood, and that it's essentially a design flaw that endangers the public. And I see a lot of political agenda baked into this study. Because, first of all, I couldn't find any peer review on it. And second of all, it's reductionist. Why in the heck should you reduce everything about the dangers of a crash to the design of the hood of the car that hit a pedestrian? Obviously, if you get hit down in your thighs instead of in your face or your chest, you have a better chance of survival. I have personally been on the hood of a sloped car. I don't remember the facts, but I was having fun and I ended up like on the hood. I don't know. The car drove at me in a field and we were just goofing off. I think I dented the hood. I wasn't a heavy guy at the time. Stalled vehicle. Really should have checked GPS before I headed home. 435 was choppy last time, but I guess I'll try it again. Anyways, I didn't like this study because it's essentially an attack on high and heavy, which I've already told you is the safest way to be. Up high and something heavy. And that does work well for the driver. But if you're an advocate for pedestrian safety, you definitely don't like high and heavy cars. But we also have to get around this correlation and causation problem. I don't think it's the hood of the car that's killing these people. It might be a key mechanism of injury, but it's not the root cause. A root cause analysis of a pedestrian fatal crash is going to be the things that we've been talking about in this series. Things such as walking around outside your car on a road without visibility, without a dadgum reflective vest on, without a light source to warn others that you're there. This is why you got hit by that flat-fronted truck. It had nothing to do with the design of that pickup truck. It had to do with the fact that you were a pedestrian in this truck's way to begin with. I'm struggling I'm to the point of like wanting to contact these people because I'd love to explore these ideas. I mean, if there's something that it's that simple that an engineer can change a few car models and kill fewer people, I'm all about it, but I'm not buying it right now off of your abstract. I read more than an abstract. There's nothing I dislike more in a work context. There's nothing that gets me in people's offices more than when I think someone is trying to use data to pull the wool over me or others that I'm associated with. I've seen it before, and it motivates me at a core level. I'm calling people, I don't care who you are. I don't care your title. I'm in your office, and I'm talking about it, and I'm not going away until my point is understood. Because people do this. They take studies, they take statistics, and they try to reprice your company in a new deal. They try to blame a statistic for why you're going to have to renegotiate something. And if you want to renegotiate, fine. But you're going to do it from a place of honesty. You're going to do it because you want more money or you need more money, but you're not going to do it based on a lie, based on a data-driven BS. Because I'm not going with it. I'm not with you. You don't play games with me when it comes to statistics and takeaways and things that are just policy, right? You're not going to change policy based on nonsense on anything I'm working on. I'm not going to have it. I'm not a yes man when it comes to the BS. Now, if it's adopted BS, if it's everybody's on board BS, then it's not BS anymore. It's a fact. And that's fine. But when there's an adversarial change to the status quo that we're not sure about, that's adverse to our interests, you can bet that I will be there to examine this very closely. And I have made it known that I am a very peaceful dog who sleeps in the corner. I don't want pets. I don't want treats. I want to sleep in the corner. And when somebody kicks me in the ribs, I ain't sleeping in the corner. I'm on my feet, howling, and I'm making a note. All I want to do is go back to my corner, shut the hell up. But I can't do that until I know that everything is copacetic and there's not a bunch of bull crap going on. I will bark and howl as necessary and then return to my corner. Anyways, methodology is important. Acknowledging flaws and limitations in your studies and in your conclusions is also very important. And I do not feel like, from what I read in this study, that they did that. Because guess what? The Honda in front of me is not as heavy. It's not going to kill as many people. It's just not. Now, can it? Oh, you bet. You betcha. I've seen that. It can send a person flying 90 feet at the right speed. We've seen that. What was the cause of that fatality? It was someone who did not pay attention to road work. They hit a highway worker, killed him. Side swipes. I mean, that's the other thing. How do you decide an accident worthy of purview of your study? The point of strike and so forth of a pedestrian. What's the rebuttal? The rebuttal is, listen, we're safety advocates. We know accidents are going to happen. They happen in many ways and shapes and forms with various factors behind them. Those are not important. What's important is that when an accident happens, the odds of survival for pedestrians and other motorists are maximized. We do that by advocating for common sense, simple changes in design that will, and this is what compels regulators. This guy need over? Can't tell. Common sense changes that will reduce lives lost and not cause any cost to industry, necessarily. Small tweaks in design that will save a few lives. Guess what? That's the kind of thing that gets regulators frothing at the mouth. They get very excited at the idea of lives saved without dollars spent, okay? Not that they care about dollars getting spent, because they'll still make you spend dollars too. In fact, we've had a very interesting, I don't know if we've talked about side underride guards much, but there is significant momentum at a federal level to bring side underride guards into a mandate side underride guards on semi-truck trailers. This is a difficult topic. Because, and I think, I just think the safety advocates are going to win this. NHTSA has been ginger but fair. Industry is resisting, but they're not resisting the way they need to be resisting. I'll just put it that way. This is going to make trailers cost more. It's going to make them heavier. It's going to make them less efficient. It's going to cost more in fuel. And debatably causes new safety concerns. Debatable. So let's get, wow, what a crash that must have been. Destroyed the guardrail. The side underride guards are, I once mistakenly identified an underride guard in one of my videos, and I want anybody who's watching this to know that I did that wrong. you will see wind screens underneath trailers. There's one to my left now, going the opposite direction. Dark trailer. Those are not underride guards. Underride guards are similar to what we call an ICC bar. ICC bars are sort of like the bumper that you see consistently on all semi-truck trailers. There might have been a year that you didn't have to have them, but it was well before my time because I see them on everything. In fact, it goes back to the ICC, I reckon, which is why it's called the ICC bar. ICC doesn't exist anymore. That's how rare it is to not see an ICC bar. Everybody's got it. And I know it's an imprecise term, but I still call it that because I like it. And that's what everybody else calls it in the industry, trucking. This is what goes on the rear of the trailer to substantially decrease your velocity when you strike the rear of it. If that bar wasn't there, you would go presumably quite deeply under the trailer, maybe all the way into the rear tandems of the tractor. I don't know, because ICC bars have been around my whole life as far as I know. I'm interested in the details on this. I might have to ask someone for that history. Anyways, do people still die when they hit an ICC bar? Oh, you bet. Oh my gosh. I see it every day. Close to every day. You hit the rear of a truck at full speed if that truck is either not at highway speeds because it's been disabled or has a mechanical problem, it's driving slow or it's not moving at all, and you're going highway speeds, you're still going to die when you hit the back of that truck. I'm sorry. I've rarely seen somebody live who was going over 55 miles an hour. And if you did, you had a miracle. You were driving a very safe car. And you had a guardian angel putting their thumb on that dang car, slowing you down at the last second. Usually they're drunk drivers who are not able to react to the truck in front of them. And the speed differential is what kills them. It's not the angle of the hood of their car, I can tell you that. But I have seen more people survive. Gosh darn it, more people just survive in safer, bigger cars. I'm sorry. It's just a fact. And this is the difference between bruised ribs and decapitation. I don't know how else to put it. When I drove a small car, I had my finger on the seat lever. There was a manual seat. In fact, I would want that. If I had to drive a sedan again, I would want a manually adjusting seat back, so that if I thought I was getting in a crash, my left hand would go down to the seat handle, pull it, and that's going to knock you back. It's going to break your spine. It's going to break a lot of stuff. But that's my theory of survival if you're in a sedan. And if you've got an electric motor, that may not help you. I'm also curious if the back forces actually send you forward before they send you backward. I really should know the answer to that, and I'm embarrassed that I don't have that well understood. I've been told that frontwards to backwards is what fraudsters say because it's not the way physics works. But I hear a lot of people tell me that they go forward then backwards. If that's true, you go to the airbag anyway, and your seat's irrelevant. I can also tell you that I've seen, in the instance of seat failure, I've seen paralysis result in crashes. So maybe my theory of pulling the seat lever is not a great one, not in touch with science. And in fact, the days when I drove a sedan, it was before I worked in this industry. So, but it made me feel more comfortable being in such a small car. The idea is that as I go backwards, I'll just simply slide back. But when that happens in real life, people do sever their spinal cord, and that can cause quadriplegia and so forth. I had a case with a guy, he was actually, okay, interesting. He was rear-ended by a semi, different facts. Anyways, I'm not going to get into specific cases. I don't talk about specific cases. But my point is that seat failure can be a catastrophic injury if it's proved. And pulling your lever on your seat could be the same as a seat failure. And presentation of injury and so forth. Now, let's get back to side underride guards. Side underride guards, as they look, they are similar to an ICC bar. You will run under the trailer, probably around the height of your mirror of your car, maybe closer to the door handle, depending on. They're so rare that, I don't have a lot of context outside of drawings that I've seen. But they run along similar to an ICC bar, but they have diagonal supports that go under the trailer and are welded to the trailer on both sides, because the goal is to absorb an impact from the side at a high speed. And I gotta tell you, you know what, I'm not gonna say that. I'm definitely not gonna take that position. No, I'm not going to take that position. But side underride guards are complicated because right now there's a committee who's supposed to decide what to do. And there are 3 people on this committee who all say, "My loved one died in a crash side of a commercial trailer." And this heartbreak, you see this in gun policy. The heartbreak creates motivation to get active in policy and to tell the story of your lost loved one and so on. I hope I'm never in that position, that I've suffered a loss of that sort. And their argument is emotional, but perhaps compelling nevertheless. Their argument is, look, you have a chance to make a change. It's no skin off of you. That just might save a life of someone you know. How are you going to feel if you end up just like me? How bad are you going to feel? How much are you going to regret not taking action today to make a change? They made an estimate on the number of lives saved. I don't remember the specific number. And then they also had the costs involved. The costs are substantial. It's hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions. And then they divide that by the number of lives that they estimate to be saved. And it's something like 100 million per life, I want to say. Oh, gosh, that's a lot of money. The question is, do they require retrofitting on all trailers? Or not? And if it's only new trailers, you're not going to see impact because there's a lot of used trailers out there. They tend to last a long time. Fair amount of time. Some of these trailers can last a really long time. So you're not going to see overnight change, death rates. But you can still run the numbers for long-term change, right? If you're trained just like this. The industry is, like I said, they're pushing back in a somewhat weak way. They're saying that there are difficulties that are not being factored in a mandate. The things I can think of are, trailers that unload from the bottom. A lot of trailers have, there's a terminology for this that I don't want to mess up, but they have ways of unloading the cargo through the decking of the trailer. You can slide off into a conveyor or something. Possibility is that the underride guard interferes with that unloading system. There's also an idea that, and it's just not well messaged. The messaging is not good on this, in my opinion. It's not understood, it's not getting out there. But there's an argument from the driver's perspective of the truck that there are new safety elements that come from having a side underride. And that story is not getting told. Frankly, even I don't understand it. The journalism is not covering it well. And I don't know if that's intentional. I'm just not sure that anybody's willing to look at these safety advocates in the eye and disagree with them. That's very well possibly the situation. I get it. Because guess what? Who ends up paying the price? It's the shareholders of the big trucking companies who buy these trailers. And that's not a sympathetic bunch. Sorry. But the small owner-operator, they're not really buying a new trailer. They don't have to buy a new trailer. So, who's going to come out and get mad about this? Well, it's very hard to fight this in a tactful way. And I don't know who's right, honestly. What I can tell is that fuel economy is important, and if you add weight to a trailer, that's not going to help things. And this is not a slam dunk, because it is an extremely expensive thing. And honestly, speaking from my little corner of the world, I have not seen many crashes of this sort. Here's how they happen. The only ones I've seen are a semi-truck, and it's usually on like U.S. highways that have a divided sort of 4-lane with turnarounds and intersections and so on. Not interstates, but the more traditional United States highways. And regular state highways, perhaps a bit. You've got trucks making U-turns. You've got trucks making left turns. These are the sorts of maneuvers that cause a side underride scenario. And it's bad. I mean, it's usually fatal. And that's why this type of accident is getting more attention, because the number of people who survive them are so few. And it's very easy for safety advocates to say, look, if you've got this tremendous death rate, why not stop the incursion with a guard? And I gotta tell you, my personal view is that I think these side guards will block an incursion more than an ICC bar will. More than an ICC bar will. The downside of that, if there is one, is what happens after the impact. And we're not going to have data on this. These are not taking hold in the industry. Why? If they were preventing enough deaths, industry would adopt them. Because they have to pay for the deaths. I pay for the deaths. The companies pay for the shareholders do. Something isn't working out in the math here. And I don't know if it's the cost of the retrofit or the efficacy, but there's something that is stopping this movement, or at least causing a bit of resistance, a substantial bit of resistance, and the reason why it's not accepted by industry, right? And it may be that it just costs too much to implement voluntarily. It may be that it's a difficult retrofit, or maybe because it really just doesn't work with the trucking industry. I don't have the answer. And I can get the answer real quick. But these guards, let's say they stop the incursion. I see two issues that I'm not taking these anywhere from but my own thoughts. Purely original thoughts to my knowledge. I see two issues. One, I think you're going to increase jackknives. I think that if you really succeed in stopping the side underride in a 90-degree hit, you're going to have jackknives of the truck. And what's this going to do? This is going to cause potentially a full blockage of the highway and potentially cause more crashes as people can't stop and they hit the truck, or as oncoming traffic, they can't stop, they hit the truck. They're going to hit the side guard as well. You're also going to have, all solutions create a new set of problems, and we don't always do a good job of understanding those. And I'm just kind of spitballing here. I really want to run that, but it's too much. That's a good point. So we have the jackknife issue. But then we also have the fact that these cars, instead of going under the truck and then off the side of the road, they're going to be stationary in the roadway. What does that mean? It means that you also have a propensity for more crashes, right? Because this car's now been stopped and disabled in the middle of the roadway. You also have now a commercial trailer disabled in the middle of the roadway. Neither of which you had prior to the side underride code. It wasn't going to happen that way. I've seen too many of them. It just doesn't happen. I'm not an engineer, but I believe that firmly enough to go on Jeopardy and argue that, or whatever. So how many more injuries result from that? Or potentially fatalities, and are these results factored in the analysis? It's hard to take hypotheticals and fight the statistics that the bean counters have come up with. And I don't think the word is getting out well, because I should know it. I mean, I read the trades. Why don't I have these talking points? I'm making up my own talking points because I don't have any talking points. Why do we oppose side underride guards? Is it a lack of research? Is it cost? disdain of all regulation? I don't know. I don't know. Tough situation. But those are the two things I can think of that make side underride guards potentially problematic. Does the increase in diesel consumption matter as well? I don't know. There's an environmental argument to make that you're destroying air in the name of saving lives in a very limited set of circumstances. Yeah, that's the other thing. There's how many side underride guards will exist, and how many of them would ever be used. And I think the statistics on that would underwhelm us all. Okay? It would probably be less than half of 1% of side underride guards would ever get used. Are you telling me we should weld metal onto every trailer in America for the 1/2 of 1%? That's a tall order. I don't know what to do with it. It's a struggle. It's a struggle because you have dead people and their families who are talking about this, and who are saying that my loved one would be here but for this item. How do you put a price on that? And one of the things that's bothered me from day one is when people talk about what a life is worth. And they complain about how it's gone up in value in the court system, and how, since when was a guy worth that much? And I cringe every time I hear a comment like that. Because who the heck are you to know the difference? Who the heck are you to know what somebody's life is worth? I mean, who could dare to think they know? Now, I'd like to be a rebuttalist on this, but it's difficult because I don't disagree with myself. But if I had to disagree with myself, I would say that, common law says that we're not valuing life itself, we're valuing the economic effects of life in a wrongful death cause of action, which is controlled by statute and common law. Common law says that we compensate for economic losses to loved ones, direct descendants, such as children, underage children, spouse, dependents of any kind, as well as a compensation for the pain and suffering of the person before they died. And that is complicated because the damage model would dictate, well, okay, there's pain and suffering before you died, and then there's the economic effects on your family, but what about the fact that it happened? What about the fact that someone's no longer living because of the actions of another? And in the civil system, we give money for that. Sorry, and juries can get aggravated because they don't want to be the person who is on the wrong end of this someday. And if we can do something, we're not necessarily, the juries aren't valuing the life itself at $90 million. They're valuing the importance of safety and best practices in business. To say, look, you screwed this up, make it better. We're not paying for that person's life. We're charging you a surcharge for being a reckless son of a gun and causing someone to lose a life. And there's a difference, I think, in that analysis. And that's why people who get upset over verdicts being too high, I don't know how it's possible that you're too high. I just don't, because verdicts are going up at the same rate that companies are getting bigger, right? No big companies, no big verdicts. That's my opinion. That's my view. And if you want to keep gobbling up bigger, more and more trucks, be bigger and bigger of a company, fine. But be prepared to pay commensurate with what you're doing, because you're not going to be changed. You're not going to be persuaded by a couple $1 million here and there. It's not going to make enough of an impact to matter to you as an organization. So we've got to speak the language of change, and the language of change for big companies is big numbers. And I can't believe I'm saying things like this, but the fact of the matter is, I don't work for big companies. I work for a small company, and we are the champion of the smaller trucking company, and they keep the minimum required insurance, and they make mistakes on their level, and they pay on their level. Let me tell you, it's a really big deal. It's a really big amount of money to them. Well, let's all be safe and have a happy Thanksgiving. I'm going to not talk about work for a few days, I hope. And hopefully everyone has a wonderful holiday.